We're going to focus. There we go. Hey guys, what's up? Just wanted to shoot you a really quick update. No, I did not quit. No, I have not gone away. I'm 14 days, I believe today's actually day 15 into the 100 days of learning to code challenge that I put onto myself. One interesting thing, so first of all, if you haven't checked out the show notes at all, the place I'm learning the coding at is called Treehouse. I'm doing one of their tech degrees in full stack JavaScript. Which is not something I had any experience with before, so I was trying to not hedge in any way, shape, or form, or make this any easier on myself, and trust me, it is not been easy. It has been one of the most humbling experiences that I've ever encountered. So the way that the tech degree is laid out is they have these different units. I think the JavaScript one currently has 10 units, and within those units, you have a project that you have to complete per unit. And there's a varying degree of videos and quizzes and practical code writing that is done within each of those units that requires you to get done before you can finish and actually complete the project for that particular unit. And what's really neat is they teach you everything within that particular unit that is necessary to do the project, fine, to do the project well. But then they give you this opportunity to get an exceeds expectations, and they give you some extra, here's what this project is, and see if you can add these other features. We didn't teach you how to do these features. We've never introduced these features to you before, but a large part of coding for anybody, I guess, who's a professional coder or just a human being that lives, in the world today, is going to be using Google and other resources to learn and figure out different ways to do things within their life and business, of course. So apparently that is the same for individuals who are coders and developers. So they give you these criteria to say, here's how you can get an exceeds expectations, which for someone like myself is all I have to hear, and I'm absolutely going to go after that. The funny thing is I finished Unit 1 in 6 days. It took me 6 days to do all of the steps, as it were, to complete that particular bit. What was nuts is it took me 4 or 5 days to finish the project, though. I did all of the units, I did everything that I was supposed to do for that, finished it wicked fast. 6 days, it might have even been 5 days. It took me almost the same amount of time to do the entire unit, which was a lot of content to get through, especially for someone who's not a coder. It took me the same amount of time to just do the project, to start from scratch on my own code, for my own project, for my own thing, which was really interesting to me, really enlightening to me, and was a fascinating exercise. It was incredibly difficult. There were really, really hard moments where I was just like, this isn't working, and I was testing code and I was writing and it just wasn't what I wanted it to be, and I had to go. They have this wonderful support situation where they provide you with Slack channels with people almost around the clock who can answer questions along with other students. You can jump obviously online. They've got extensive forums on the back end and all that kind of stuff. So you're not left by yourself, but you still want to make on your own, and you want to accomplish it. And it was incredibly difficult and a lot of fun. And I passed. I got exceeds expectation. It was a random quote generator using whatever quotes you wanted. Mine was philosophy based. We had some Stoic philosophers in there, some nihilist, some Taoism, and some different stuff. The exceeds expectations were, there was a button that you click to change the random quote, right? So the exceeds expectations is adding a timer that automatically changed the quotes, which is really kind of interesting, and then also changing the background color along with the quote, and coupling that background color change and quote change with the timer. So it was a fascinating exercise in a bunch of different aspects of using JavaScript, some CSS, obviously some HTML, to create this really simple tool that, in general is not. It's not great, right? It wouldn't be a finished product. It's not something that I'm like, oh my gosh, shouting from the rooftops. But I made it. I chose the color palette. I chose the quotes. I chose the tags. I chose everything about it, start to finish. It was incredible to do, and I had a tremendous amount of fun getting it accomplished. But one thing came up that I thought was really interesting, and I want that to be kind of the bigger takeaway from this video, from this idea, and that is, if you might not have been in this position like I was when I went to school. Maybe I was alone in this one, but let's say you had a class where there was only 4 grades that were going to be taken. Say it was 4 large papers or 4 large projects or something like that, and you knew each grade was really important because obviously you're only going to get 4 of those grades. So let's say you were lights out. You were lights out on the first 3 of those projects. You got 100. You A++, you nailed it. You got exactly what you were supposed to get. But you can't sleep on the 4th one because math is a thing. Let's say you just decided, look, forget it. This was me oftentimes in school. This is where we get to the me part of just, getting a 0 on an assignment, just not turning in work, not turning in a paper, not, doing what you're supposed to do. And at the time, I got it, I understood it, but I didn't really understand how important it is to not take a 0. So to go back to our analogy of 4 grades, 4 projects, you got a lights out on all of them, you got 100 on the first 3, and you just decided I'm not gonna do the 4th one, I'm out. I got a 0 on it. You were lights out, but your grade average is now a 75. For those that need the math on it, you get 100, 100, 100, that's 300 divided by 4, 75. So you went from having a perfect grade to barely passing because of that 0. So why does that matter? Why is this such a big deal? Well, a large part of learning something new, especially something like coding, is obviously I'm doing this stuff through Treehouse, but you just start to get into the culture. You start to get into the community. You start reading articles and listening to podcasts and things like that. And one of the big things that comes up often, and I'm going to talk about it here and parrot it here, is coding every day. Doing it every single day. Now that's no different than, say, trying to eat healthy every day or whatever the case may be, but we'll stick specifically with coding here. Coding every day, even if it's for just 20 minutes a day, can make a huge impact on what you're doing and how you're going to go about accomplishing and how quickly you learn and how thoroughly you can learn. Because taking a day off, especially on a new skill like this, can really negatively impact what you're trying to accomplish, because you jump back in and you're say learning about different let and const variables and different things like that, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, what is a let? What is a let? What is const? How do you do an arrow into a function? And all of a sudden you forget what you just knew 2 days ago because you took 1 day off. And obviously that can be very daunting. But the thought that you can't just nail down 20 minutes on one thing, I really think everybody can really get that done. And obviously this has been a very long video at this point, so if you've come this far, I really appreciate it. But the way I want to demonstrate this for you to really get an idea is I've been logging the number of steps, not necessarily the time, but the number of steps I've been doing per day in an Excel spreadsheet, because apparently I'm a nerd like that and I want to know this data. So I think it's something like you're going to want to do anywhere between 5 to 8 steps in the Treehouse process to get your tech degree done in a certain period of time that they recommend. And that's your 20 minutes a day, as it were. Technically, I think 5 to 8 steps might take a little longer than 20 minutes, but you get what I'm saying, 5 to 8 steps a day. So I've been logging all the steps I've completed throughout this process. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I have 4 0 days. Days that just I didn't log in at all. One of these days was Thanksgiving, I was with the family, things like that, right? But along with my own log of the steps I've completed in a particular day, I've also got a side tally running of 8 steps a day to basically compare myself against where would someone be if they were choosing to not take any 0 days. So I'm 14 days logged, I'm 14 days in, today's day 15, and I've had a high of 33 steps completed in a day, a low of 17 steps, or 2 steps completed in a day, so I didn't even make it to like the small threshold, 2, and then it jumps all the way to 17. But I've got a couple of those 0 days. How does that impact us overall? So I'm averaging right now almost 17 steps done a day. So twice as much as a typical recommended 8 steps a day kind of scenario, right? You've got 8 a day. I'm averaging about almost 17, right? The thing that's interesting about that, though, is, to me, is that even on days when I've done 32 steps or 33 steps, I'm in the 30s, or I've quadrupled the amount of what I'm supposed to do, or what they recommend you to do to not have those 0 days. Even when I've got those on my resume, quadruple days, triplicate days, things like this, because of those 0 days, if on day 14 you were following that 8-step-a-day path, you'd be at 112 steps completed, and I'm at 236. 112, 236, right? It was 112. I'm looking at the end. Even with some of those really thoroughly done, and like I just got in and I was getting after it and I was putting in the work, even with that being the case, I'm not that much further along. I'm further along, but not that much further along. Those 0 days really matter. They're tremendously important that you don't take them whenever possible. So whether you're learning to code, blacksmith, write, fitness, weight loss, start a new career, sales, public speaking, whatever, do not at all costs have 0 days. And if you have to have them, make sure it's worth it, make sure it's important, but really understand what the toll a 0 day can take on learning a new skill, learning a new habit, whatever it is, and understanding that process. Now, I understand if you're learning woodworking, you go, you make your thing, and maybe it's got to sit and be glued up or cure, or whatever the case is. I get that sometimes those days are going to exist, but limit that as much as you possibly can. Because even if you're out here busting your hump, getting hundreds on projects, quadrupling the amount of time you can do on some of those days, as those 0 days start to add up and accumulate, the hits keep coming. And the math works out that you really start to get your legs knocked out from underneath you by just not taking a little bit of effort every day to work on it. So I appreciate you guys checking this out. I'm on day 15. I'm moving right along. I'm into the second unit now, and learning all about I'm learning about what DOM is. It's a huge portion, a huge component of JavaScript. DOM standing for Document Object Model, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. So we're learning about those types of things, and learning about some overarching principles of I believe it is JS 6 or JS 2015, something like that. I'm new. Don't hate on me too much. Anyway, I appreciate you guys, and I hope you're out there. I hope you're learning, and I hope that you're getting after it. Cheers.